You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Cabral Concept. Thank you so much for joining me here today once again on our Cabral HouseCalls. We're going to go through as many questions as we can that have come in over the past 4 to 5 weeks or so from our community. These questions today are starting on, we are starting today with Bryana, and she wrote in on September 11th. So we're just about 5 weeks behind in terms of people writing in these questions. Do keep in mind, if you want questions the very same, or I should say, not if you want questions, but if you want answers the very same day, do feel free to write in at cabralsupportgroup.com. We do provide a level of health coaching right inside of that group. And then, of course, for more in-depth answers and knowledge, do feel free to get set up with one of our professionally trained health coaches. So we got to about 10 questions yesterday. I loved it. It was great. It was fast-paced. We answered so many. I do hope that you go and check out those questions from yesterday. All sorts of things such as celery juice and eating eggs and talking about how to gain weight the healthy way, and then talking about allergies and asthma and then anxiety and depression. We talked about potential thyroid-based issues. We talked about heart disease and cholesterol. We talked about eating mushrooms or not eating mushrooms in terms of candida overgrowth. So a lot of questions covered. Hopefully you checked that out. That was over at stephencabral.com/1352. And today's questions are written, if you want to follow along, at stephencabral.com/1353. But you probably already guessed that. All right. So thanks so much again for tuning in. Let's dive right into the questions. The first one today is from Bryana. She writes in, "Hello, Dr. Cabral. I wanted to ask you about the MTHFR gene. I have 2 copies of the C677T mutation. My husband has 2 copies of the A1298C mutation. Our kids have 1 copy each. I know for the C mutation of the gene that we need to supplement with extra B vitamins, methylated folate, extra zinc, magnesium, and vitamin C. My question for you is, what protocol should I follow for the A gene mutation? Thanks so much for enabling us, all of us, with the power of knowledge." Bryana. Thank you so much for writing in, Bryana. But I've talked about the MTHFR gene mutation a number of times. I just typed it into stephencabral.com/podcasts, and it's been talked about 19 times on the podcast. So you can check that out just by typing in MTHFR at stephencabral.com/podcast, a little search box there. And for people who don't know what it is, a specific gene mutation, it stands for methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase, and it affects namely inflammation and detox and overall stress buffering in the body. So here's the thing though. Here's what I recommend in my practice, and I do lots of genetic testing. I recommend daily foundational protocol level 2. Level 3 if you can do it, and that's it. That's what I recommend. But that's not where it stops, okay? So that is the daily nutritional support, your daily fruit and vegetable blend, your omega, and your daily probiotic support, okay? Amazing protocol. I've done it every day myself for, now well over a decade. So here's the thing though. Then, because your genes don't tell you where you're at today. They only show you what you're susceptible to. Now, will those genes come out if you're not getting enough sleep, if you're super stressed, if you're, as they say, burning the candle at both ends, if you're over-exercising, all of these things? Well, then yes, all the things that you just named are great. And you may need all of them with a little bit of omega-3s and a seasonal detox every 12 weeks to help ramp up detoxification. So, and then also it's also what you don't do, like don't drink a lot of alcohol, don't eat a lot of heavy foods, right? A lot of heavy fat diet. So here's what I want you to think about. Do the daily foundational protocol level 2. Then run your organic acids test, which we call the complete candida, metabolism and vitamins test, and then run your minerals and metals test. And that will let you know if you're good with where you're at. Okay? So that's an important one to look at. That will tell you where you're at today. Now, let's say you didn't want to run any labs. To be on the safe side, because again, I don't know where you're at today, to be on the safe side, you might want to do what I do. And I add 2 capsules of full spectrum vitamin C every day. I add an extra capsule of the full spectrum magnesium at night. I do an extra balanced zinc at night. And I take 1 extra capsule of the activated B complex with lunch during any times of any extra stress. If it's July and August, I'm getting plenty of sun, enjoying the outdoors weather, being in Maine, I don't take my extra B vitamin. What about for November through December? A lot of speaking, a lot of travel. Sure, I'll take it then for sure. Yeah, absolutely. So that there's nothing wrong with the program that you just laid out. Don't worry about the extra methylated folate. It's going to be in your activated B complex. It's going to be in your daily nutritional support. So, Bryana, hopefully that's helpful. No one could give you a protocol because there's only one Bryana, and Bryana's life also changes from time to time. So Bryana is going to need more zinc, magnesium, vitamin C, and B vitamins during times of extra stress or harder training or depleted dieting. She'll need more of those things, no doubt about it, right? So you also want to make sure your omegas are in there, your vitamin D is in there, right? Your probiotics. So there's a lot, but again, no one can tell you at this moment because there is no protocol. Don't let anybody tell you there's an exact protocol. There's a protocol based on your genes during times of extra stress when those genes would be most affected. All right? All right. Now, again, no, I'm going to keep it at that. That's what you need to know. We don't need to overcomplicate this. All right. Kate's up next. Hello, I recently completed the 7-day detox. I have a question about the unusual symptoms I'm now experiencing once completed. During the detox, I felt fine apart from normal detox reactions. A little bit of fatigue, some headaches, racing heart, etc. But towards the very end of the detox, and especially on the day after I completed it, I've been experiencing tingling in my hands and feet as well as all over my face. I have stomach cramps as well and extreme anxiety. I feel as though I have adrenaline pumping through my veins. Would I still possibly be experiencing detox symptoms? Is this normal as a reaction to completing the detox? I'm a little confused and not feeling great, but seeming to have something else going on in my body and mind. All right. Thank you for your help. Happy to help. So here's what we want to look at. It didn't happen during the detox. It happened during the introduction. What did we introduce back in? That was a healthy food or a healthy supplement or a healthy whatever it might be that now brought on these symptoms. That's what I want to look at. It didn't happen during the detox. It happened during the transition. What did we transition that was different? That's what I want to look at. Because a lot of people do go back to caffeine or they do go back to taking maybe more B vitamins than they should have. They go back to taking a supplement that, now isn't working for them. I don't know. I can't give you that exact answer. I'd love to be able to help you. If you do feel like you have adrenaline pumping through your body, I'd love for you to run the mind, mood, stress hormone lab. Okay. That's the thyroid adrenal hormone. And then that way we can get an actual look at what's going on with your adrenals, what's going on with your thyroid in terms of cortisol production or thyroid production. This was also written in a 9/12. That's the hard part. It was 5 weeks ago. I don't know if you're still experiencing this. I don't know if it's changed. So I'd recommend running a lab. And if you run it through Equilibrium Nutrition, I read your labs. You get on the call with one of my amazing health coaches. We take you through a plan. Or enter the private practice. Or you can also work with a local functional medicine doctor, or integrative health practitioner. We want you working with someone to be able to help with these specific type of symptoms because this isn't normal during a detox. This doesn't typically happen. People are typically feeling so much better, right? So I want to see what went off here, but also how it goes off gives us a symptom as to what we need to rebalance. So thank you, Kate, for writing in, and I'd love to be able to help however we can. Lucy writes in, Hi, Dr. Cabral. I have a question about memory. I have an absolutely terrible memory, short-term and long-term. There are huge chunks of my life I can't recall, and I'm only 30. My best friends talk about people we knew and hung out with in high school, and I can't remember any of them. My college friends nicknamed me Goldfish, and then I forgot why they gave me that nickname. I have to write notes for myself and set multiple reminders and alarms just to get through the day. I've done the CBO protocol twice and the Dr. Cabral detox. I'd love to know possible root causes, what test would be best, or even protocols I can jump into to figure this out. Thank you so much. Love the podcast. Okay, so Lucy, I have 2 podcasts for you. One was last week on 7 foods and lifestyle factors that damage your brain. That's episode 1348. And then coming this week, just in 2 days from now, on episode 1355, I'll be doing a part 2, 7 foods and lifestyle factors that boost your brain function, right? So it's a part 2. So I want to give you that. I also want to look at one of the most detrimental things that it can affect short and long-term memory, and that is high levels of stress or high levels of cortisol output. So I'd love for you to run that mind, mood, and stress-based test as well. Okay, it's going to give you your hormones. So I want to look at that specifically. I'd also love to look at heavy metals. So I'd love for you to run a hair tissue mineral analysis, or what we would call the minerals and metals-based test. Now, if you don't want to run the omega-3 test, begin to supplement, as long as you're not on blood thinners or anything that's contraindicated. You can always speak with your doctor about this, about implementing our daily foundational protocol level 2 that includes good quality, not good quality, the best quality triglyceride-bound form of omega-3s. And that should help as well. So you seem to be on the right track with what you're doing food-based wise, but let's look at labs now to figure out what also might be going on. So hopefully that at least gives you a start. Check out what damages the brain, then what helps the brain, and I think that will be a help as well. All right, I see a customer service question jumped in here, and it says, well, I'll just answer it. It's from Jacqueline. Hi, do you still have the sauna and are at the Berkeley Street location? Thank you. So I am no longer at the Berkeley Street location, but what was once Cabral Wellness Institute is still alive and well. And it is with one of my colleagues who is running that and still does have the state-of-the-art sauna. Now, when I opened that location many years ago, it was the only infrared sauna in, I don't know if it was all of Massachusetts, but at least in the entire Boston-based area. So that is there still, and enjoy. Tell them I said hello. All right, next up is Marie. Marie says, hi, Dr. Cabral. I was wondering whether you are familiar with the brand Now Alchemy and were able to recommend their products, which includes things like Ormus, Gold, Shilajit, CBD. They are quite an investment, so I'd love to hear your opinion in purchasing them. This is from Marie. Marie, I apologize. I have never heard of the brand, so I apologize. But if you are part of the IHP group, you might want to post this inside of IHP. So I don't know that, and I apologize that I can't give you more feedback, but I always like to give you my honest feedback. I did do a podcast on Shilajit, and I do recommend checking that out by simply typing that into stephencabral.com/podcast. All right, B's up next, B-E. I apologize if we spelt that incorrectly, but just B-E. Hey, from South Australia, I wonder how exactly do you test the foods test on the sensitive gut guide to determine, yes, this doesn't feed Candida, agitate the gut. I understand if you don't want to disclose this for business reasons. I listen to your podcast all the time, and it has really contributed to my experience throughout my nutritional medicine degree. So thank you. B, I appreciate you. Thank you for writing in. So we actually don't. We do an IgE food sensitivity test. That's amazing. That does tell you exactly whether you're sensitive from a non-sensitivity, a mild, a moderate, or a more severe sensitivity to that food from a delayed reaction. It's a great test. We do it. I've done it with both my daughters when they were young. And of course, I've done it with myself, my wife, my family. I've done it with most of my nieces and nephews as well. So it just shows you, hey, are you sensitive to that cow's milk yogurt or dairy? Are you sensitive to eggs? Are you sensitive to bananas? It tells you those things. Okay. Now, that has nothing to do with the candida or the bacterial overgrowth. That is a specific list that we give people, the sensitive gut guide, that we know contributes to the overgrowth of candida bacterial overgrowth if you have a proliferation. And that's because I talked about this yesterday a little bit on the podcast. They contain fructo, oligo, di, mono, and polysaccharides. So these are essentially breakdowns of certain sugars, not glucose, right? That breakdowns of certain types of sugar that when they enter the small intestine, they begin to feed bacteria or yeast. Now, if you have normal levels of bacteria, great. Those are okay. They're not bad. But during our 12-week CBO protocol, we are going in and we are wiping out the overgrowth. That's our job, right? So we do that to rebalance bacteria, rebalance yeast. That's our job. And so we are not going to give people foods that will overgrow those. Then after 4 weeks, we begin to add in these specific foods. And then after 6 weeks, these specific foods. Then after 8 weeks, we start to add back things like garlic and onion and those types of FODMAP-based foods. So, but it's not just a FODMAP list. It's based on lectins. It's based on digestibility. It's based on your total rain barrel, right? It's based on the total load. So B, hopefully that's helpful. Nikki's up next. Hi, all. Do blue light blocking glasses have to be tinted? There are so many brands that sell them. How do you know they are legitimate? They don't have to necessarily be tinted. However, I'll tell you this. Most brands that are good blue blockers are going to be yellow tint, and that's going to block about 90 to 95% of the blue rays. But to block out the 99%, usually they're darker orange or even a reddish tint, and I have both actually. So if I'm looking to just shut it down, like let's say I'm on an overnight flight, I'll put on the red ones. Let's say I have so many trips to California and LA. I put on those red ones at 8 o'clock at night. It's 11 p.m. my time. It's way past my bedtime, way past it by about an hour. So what I'm looking to do, or 7 p.m., I'll start to shut it down. And I'll use those as I'm getting ready for bed, maybe as I'm eating dinner. And then what I do is I turn off the lights, then I take those off because those really start to get those cortisol levels lower and helps the melatonin levels increase. So I would be careful. I would actually ask the company if they're a light tint because usually they're only like 50%. Right, because, well, here's a good point. So my wife has reading glasses, not for prescription, but blue blockers. And they're for daytime readers as well. And they're only blocking about 50%, right? Because they're for daytime. So they can still be considered blue blockers, but they're not for nighttime, right? So the darker the tint, typically the more they block out. But that's not always the case. So if you want to know, do they block out 90 to 95%, which is what most people want for evening use, just email the company and they'll let you know, all right? Ours block out 95%. So if you go to equilibriumnutrition.com and you type in blue blocker or even just type in glasses, you'll find our blue blockers. We give them away at, honestly, like the best price possible. I think they're $29. I mean, you would typically buy these for $59. Like, no doubt about it. You probably know the companies that are selling them $59, $69. Same pair. We just sell them for less because it's not our whole business. We want people to use them. They're a great product. I mean, I use them all the time. I would typically, like, watching TV at night, blue blockers go on. Reading, blue blockers are on. Like, that's just easy to use. Okay, Reese is up next. I am 55 years old, in great shape, eat well, exercise, cardio, and weight train bearing. Following you, have read your book. I have been diagnosed with osteoporosis and still can't believe it. What I'd like to ask is, can you speak to this on one of your podcasts? I tried to find a way to search on a podcast page, but I didn't see a way to do that. I'd like to know what are the root causes is, or what can this be, and if this is reversible, what I am told. And everyone can read Reese's question probably better than I can speak it, that's for sure, over at stephencabral.com/1353. I did have some tests run, and they want me in 6 months to have a collagen cross-linked N-tiliopeptide test again. It was high at 51, and according to bone specialists, that is high, indicating there is bone loss and possible medication in my future, which I do not want ever, hoping there is something I can do now to change it. If anything, thank you. All right, Reese, let's take it from the top. Let's see. If we go to stephencabral.com/podcasts and we look at the search box, I'm just going to type in osteo, O-S-T-E-O. I get 16 search results. All right. So I've answered this question on episode 350, on episode 457, 561, 583. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I've answered it 16 times. Now, that doesn't mean I can't answer it for you as well. This is what the house calls are all about. So I give you different versions of it. You need to watch your vitamin D levels. You need to watch your calcium levels. You need to watch your magnesium levels. You need to watch your vitamin K levels. All of these things help you to get more bone mass made. Now, I believe you said you were 55 years old. We're not looking to build a lot of extra bone. We can build a little bit, but we're not looking to build a lot. We just don't want to lose anymore. So what do? Well, typically we do, again, daily foundational protocol level 2. We're using a normal amount of vitamin D, about 4,000 IUs per day. You want to have your blood test run. You want to run 25 hydroxy vitamin D. It's on our mood and stress and hormone-based lab as well with the thyroid adrenal hormone to look at those specific numbers, okay? These are all at equilibriumnutrition.com. Everything, the products, the labs, that's how we run our virtual practice for everyone in over 20 countries around the world. And you can have the same open source access to that. So that is, we can get the labs for that. What else can I recommend? Well, the daily nutritional support inside of the Daily Foundation Protocol Level 2 is going to have vitamin K. It's going to have protein in there, vegan-based protein. It's going to have vitamin D. It's going to have calcium. It's going to have magnesium. I would most likely, again, I can't give you medical advice, I'd most likely be using 1 capsule of CalMag Complete at lunch and 2 at dinner. You have your extra vitamin D. What else would I be talking about? It may be enough. And then you're doing 3 days a week of exercise, weight bearing. you are doing, I would work on meditation, and I would also run that test to find out if you have high cortisol levels. Remember, you will have higher level of bone breakdown if you have higher levels of stress in the body. So we need to begin to look past just the bone loss. Remember, bone loss is a symptom. Why do you have more bone loss? Too little magnesium, too little calcium, too little vitamin D, too little vitamin K, too much stress, not enough B vitamins, right? Like all of these are factors. Why do you have higher levels of inflammation? Might it be higher levels of heavy metals? Like these are all possibilities. So I recommend if you can, run the Big Five. That'll give you a great assessment. And then if not, well, work the basics. Run the minerals and metals test, run that thyroid adrenal hormone, and then, of course, run the Candida metabolism and vitamins test, which is part of the starter kit to look at gut-based function. So those will give you more in-depth answers. Remember, conventional medicine is great at telling you that you have a diseased state, but they will never tell you why, not at a root causal level. That's when we begin to look at these at-home functional medicine lab tests. And remember that all lab tests at Equilibrium Nutrition come with my review. They come with my recommendations. They come with a health coaching call. They come with a wellness-based plan to get that body rebalanced. So hopefully this has been helpful, Reese. Make sure you're getting normal exercise. You're getting enough protein for the day. You're reducing stress. You're getting enough sleep. You're following that de-stress protocol that I wrote about in the rain barrel effect. And hopefully we'll be able to stop that bone loss and even maybe just regrow some. Hopefully that's been helpful. All right, thank you, Reese. And to everyone out there who's been tuning in, I appreciate you. I thank you so much. And as always, if this has been helpful, please do feel free to pass this information along to anyone else you believe it could serve. Did you know that the body really only becomes sick or imbalanced in only two ways? Over time, you become deficient in vital nutrients, and you also accumulate toxins internally and from the environment. As those nutrients diminish and you increase your total toxic load, your body then begins to show the first signs of dis-ease. It's actually quite predictable, and the good news is that if we know how you began to fill up that proverbial rain barrel, we also know how to empty it to begin the healing process. I was fortunate enough to learn this ancient healing process from my mentor after suffering from debilitating diseases for close to a decade. It was only when I began to implement these techniques did I finally overcome my illnesses and go on to live a life of energy and vitality that I now enjoy. I'd like to share with you now what I discovered after traveling all over the world and how to combine the best of ancient healing wisdom with state-of-the-art science. Allow me to teach you exactly how I've been able to help over 250,000 people to empty their rain barrel and begin to transform their body and lives into what they've always hoped they could be. To get your copy of the international bestseller, The Rain Barrel Effect, simply go to stephencabral.com/rainbarrel.